live at the Rolex 24 here at Daytona, and with this prolonged period of sunshine and the high wind, the track is drying very, very rapidly. In this car here, the Max Angelelli SunTrust Pontiac Howard Riley is the first to go on slicks, the first prototype, I should say, to go on slicks. The Racers Group Porsche, it's already gone to slick tyres, so too is the Van Wyck and Jaeger Porsche as well. So it's all happening out there. There's a flurry for the pits. Sadly, the 4 Crawford, the Howard Boss car with Butch Leitzinger at the wheel, is back in pit lane. More problems. Reports smoke from the back of that car, and he has been dropped to 6th place. There's a mad scramble for slicks down there, guys.
Well, it's about the right time. You see this one right here is starting to scallop. See those little bitty, in fact, the tire just moved. Right there, you're seeing that it's rolling the rubber off the outside edge of the tire. And that'll get continually worse, and that'll turn into little blisters. All the way around there, you get little blisters. Then it feels like you got a flat tire as you're driving. And those are probably our blisters, I do believe.
And the trouble is, of course, when you hit the banking and the thing finally comes apart, it's not a great feeling.
Just before we went to break, Dorst, you noticed something on board with Jörg Bergmeister. Talk about that.
Jörg was actually, while we're riding on board with him, and it was right before he came in and got onto the slicks. Watch as he goes down here through this kink. He's testing the adhesion. Watch his hand on the steering wheel. He turns 3 times. 1, 2, see, right there. That's the subtlety. He's feeling that grip before he gets to the apex. He wants to know when he gets there the car is still going to turn. If it's not going to turn, he's going to have to adjust his speed before he gets to that point. But that's what he was doing right there. He was feeling the front end of the car.
Wow. That's pretty savage.
It accelerated a lot quicker than he did.
Chris, what do you have for us?
Well, I just checked in with the 54. It looks like Andy Pilgrim is slowing a bit out there. This team is starting to have some problems with cooling the car. So the car's getting a bit hot. They're telling Andy to try and short shift it, keep the revs down a little bit, see if that temperature goes down. Just say with everything in the radiator right now that there's just not enough air flowing through there. So they're hopefully going to try and keep Andy out, but looks like they are getting ready to possibly put a radiator into. So we'll just hold here and watch these guys. Brian?
You know, it's interesting. That problem actually started last night when Terry Borcheller went off the track. They packed a lot of grass in the radiator, and I talked to Jim Bell. He said we're having some overheating problems even after we got it cleaned out as cool and as wet as it was. So now that everything's clearing out, it looks like the problems are rearing their ugly heads, Lee.
Well, one car that's on a move is the 27 car, the Didier Tays, Freddie Leinhard, Mark Goosen's car, and Jan Lammers, the former winner in that. It's just pitting as we speak, but this car has been putting in great. Mark Goosen's has been flying in this car, and they were just about to move ahead of the Howard Boss Leitzinger Jimmy Johnson number 4 entry, but a pit stop called, and they'll be changing to slicks, no doubt, as well.
And changing drivers too.
Yeah, that's Didier Tays about to step in.
Well, I'll tell you, the slicks are...
Is that Didier?
The slicks are the right thing, because right there, Kelly Collins just turned a 1:57, which is 3 seconds faster than anybody's been able to run on the slick. I mean, on the treaded. So he's flying.
Jan Lammers is getting in the 27. They too are going to slicks, but interestingly enough, guys, they're not going to stickers. We saw the 10 car came in. He went on stickers. These tires are scrubbed, and that may actually be an advantage out there in this wet. They won't have to get the mold compound, the release compound off of it. They've got tires that are already scrubbed in a little bit. They'll still have to get up to temperature, but going with scrubs, that might be the right thing to do right now if you want to run slicks.
Good effort from these guys, and hopefully they will get the reward they deserve after enduring a very, very tough period so far. With just a little over 2 hours to go, an update from the pits. We hear that the Butch Leitzinger, Elliott Forbes Robinson, Jimmy Johnson car will be retiring from the race. Ongoing problems. There it is there. Sad sight for everyone involved. Rick Howard and David Bruley, who is the car owner and also one of the drivers. And also, too, for Max Crawford.
There's no doubt these Crawfords have really shown their mettle. These are cars not to be trifled, but they're going to be quick.
Here's the Flying Lizard car, 5th overall, 2nd in class. We hear that the Orbit Racing car is in as well. This is the GT class leading car. Boy, oh boy, have these two teams put on a show in GT. Incidentally, the Racers Group Porsche still maintaining 3rd ahead of the Red Bull Ferrari 360, which is 4th in GT. And the Burgess Collin Porsche is 5th in class.
Now we see the lap times really starting to plummet. Now they're down into the 56s already. So
I don't think the Ferrari has changed yet, because on that last lap, the 66 car, the Porsche, did a 1:57. The Ferrari did a 2:10.
And second place car is in. Andy Pilgrim brings the Bell Motorsports Pontiac Doran in, and this is really playing into the hands of the race leaders, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Tony Stewart and Andy Wallace. That increases their lead even more.
However, I do think you'll see Dale Jr. come in very shortly for slicks as well, because he's really slow right now.
Chris.
Andy Wallace just brought the 54 into pit lane. They are also putting slicks on this car. They are going to stick her up here. I'm sorry, Andy Pilgrim. And it looks like they are going to try and spray out the radiator. They aren't going to try and put a new radiator in the car. So I think they saw how long that took with the number 4 car. So I don't think they want to lose that much time out on the racetrack. They're just going to try and clean this out. They're spraying some air in there right now, trying to get anything they can out of there, and hopefully the car will cool when they get back out on track. Just to give you an indication of the difference in lap times between these wet weather tyres and the slicks, Dale Earnhardt Jr. just posted a 2:03. Angelelli in the Pontiac Riley has already put the slick tyres on. He's 8 seconds a lap faster. The day is not done for that SunTrust Riley.
Now he's got the hammer down on that, and right now, like you said, at 8 seconds a lap, that's a huge difference. But that is the fact that Dale Jr. is on rain tires. He needs to come in now and get rid of that.
Down here in the 27 pit, you can see the crew guy. This is what they're sweeping up. This is what came out of the radiator of the 27 car. You see it's a lot of rubber. There's a lot of grit in here too. You talk about these cars overheating. In the night, as wet as it was, this is what normally flies off of the racetrack when the cars go by. In the damp conditions, as slick as it is, it's sticking in the radiators, and that's what's causing the overheating.
The dreaded clag.
The clag there, was Clagus Maximus, as the Latins used to say. And it really is, as he said, because it doesn't go off the track when it's damp. It sticks to it.
Your race-leading car, you ride with Dale Earnhardt Jr. He and Tony Stewart. Can they do it?
Welcome back live to Speed Channel's exclusive live coverage of the 42nd Rolex 24 at Daytona. You're looking at the race-leading car, a Chevy Crawford in the hands of Dale Earnhardt Jr., and there is the man who is about to take over from him, his fellow NASCAR Nextel Cup star, in fact, the 2002 NASCAR champion, Tony Stewart, will get in. We anticipate for the final 2 hours of this race. He will also switch from wet to dry slicks, because Max Angelelli in the 3rd place Pontiac-powered Riley chassis switched to slicks a few laps ago and is driving rings around the rest of the field.
11 seconds a lap at the moment. And even though they're a long way behind at 11 seconds a lap, he may come a lot of deficit.
You see Dale Jr. just squirming all over the racetrack. Just look at the back of the car. He's going to end up with blister tires probably when he comes in.
Wow, 13 seconds that lap.
Now down here at our host position, I'm joined by Trans Am champion Lee. Whoa, we've got a spinner on the racetrack. Everybody by all right? Always at the most dramatic moment, just as I was about to introduce my former Champ Car Speed Channel broadcast colleague Scott Pruitt, driving, of course, with Chip Ganassi's car. In fact, he put that car on pole for the race. So, Scott, you've lost none of your speed, obviously, in the prototypes.
No, it was good. Unfortunately, the race hasn't gone as good for us as we would have liked. We had some sort of heat exchanger problem that really cost us. And then the biggest challenge has been just being able to see out of the car. I mean, you're driving like this. It fogs up on the inside, had a lot of problem on the outside, broke the windshield wiper about 11:30 last night. So it's been a challenge all the way through.
Now you're done for the final 2 hours of this race, is that right?
No, I'll probably be jumping back in for the last hour. Jimmy Morales has just gotten the car. It's his first time in the car. He's new to the team. He didn't want to take any chances because this downpour has been pretty treacherous. So he thought, you know what, let's let the guys do it, and then I'll slip in towards the end.
Okay, what do you make of the conditions we're looking at right now, and this change to slick tires?
I'm surprised these guys haven't gone in, but it's the conservative move. They're about 5-6 laps up, so they have quite a bit of time there. But the chances of doing something with these tires, when it goes dry like that, these tires will chunk, will wear out pretty quick, and he'll start squirming around as we've seen on some of the videos. So he needs to be getting that car in the pits and get some slicks on.
Have you ever seen conditions here at the Rolex as bad as what we've seen over the last 24 hours?
No. The worst I've seen was at Le Mans, actually the year I won there with Corvette, where it rained 23 hours, but it wasn't this hard. It was hard, but not this hard.
Coming in, you see the dark clouds on the horizon. We may not be done with rain yet here at Rolex. Let's go down to Brian Till.
The 2-car rolls to a stop. I never thought I'd be saying this. This is not the Daytona 500. It is the Rolex 24 of Daytona. Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets out of the leading car. Tony Stewart gets in the leading number 2 car. These guys have put on a clinic. You think of them as going around in circles, but they have showed the road racing community they are the real deal. They can run and run well. The rain tires come off. We don't see any blisters on them right now. They will definitely go to slicks. The slicks that are going on are stickers. So Tony Stewart will have to be very careful, but there is no doubt that you cannot run rain tires right now. The track is just way, way too dry. Mike Crawford, team owner, the team principal, as they came in, looked at his crew and said, everybody be calm, take your time, do the stop well, and do it without mistakes.
These guys are in control of the race right now, and that's exactly what they need to be doing. Just be calm, be real clean. You know, take a little extra time, you know, make sure nobody makes a mistake, put those 4 tires on. And then same thing for Tony. When he goes out, you know, it's going to take a lap or two to get those slicks up to temp. Not taking any chances. This is a pretty critical time when you have that dry line, but you can get off just a little bit, then it gets wet out there and you can slide right off the track.
Scott, you didn't get to see it last night because you were busy, but when Tony Stewart got in the rain, it was his first stint in the rain, got behind the wheel, took off, and immediately went storming off on his first lap. Who would he race down? He caught
Max Pappas.
Max
It's
Pappas.
Scott's car.
Yeah, he passed your car up and never made a mistake. He was brilliant in the rain last night.
Awesome. These guys are doing a terrific job. They put a lot of focus on their road racing skills, and as we've seen, we saw Dale Jr. here a couple years ago with Corvette, again last year, and now this year they're showing the way.
Scott, it's not where you'd like to be in 14th overall, and 7th in class, but all in all, not a bad effort for the Ganassi car, the Lexus Riley's first race outing anyway.
Yeah, considering we took delivery of this car right before Christmas, literally before Christmas. The first time the car turned the wheel was in testing. We went right from there to Phoenix for 3 days. The Ganassi guys have done just a terrific job. Riley's done a great job with the car. I mean, being able to come with a brand new car, I mean, we haven't had the thing in a wind tunnel. We haven't done any development to come here and put it on the pole. And I think the job that Lexus has done has been tremendous.
I spoke with Mike Hull, team manager for Chip Ganassi Racing, and he said part of the problem was you got the car just for the Christmas holidays, went running all over Indianapolis looking for vendors and contractors to help you develop your car. Everybody was off on holiday, and you couldn't get anybody back until mid-January.
Yeah, and that goes true to the Ganassi guys. They had to pull some 24-hour events, and you know, it was some long hours. Let's go down to Brian.
Well, the name Earnhardt stepping out of a car that's leading at Daytona is not uncommon, but man, never in these conditions before. Awesome job. How was it out there, especially in the end on those hot rain tires?
Well, they were kind of slick, and I knew guys were coming in and getting tires, and they were going to beat me. We didn't want to lose too much time, so we pitted about 10 laps early, get Tony in the car, get him on slick. Hopefully he gets out there, get some heat in him. That's the first stint I've ever ran, and I ain't spun out, so I was pretty happy about that. But we were pulling away just a little bit from the 54, and then he had some problems or something. I don't know. It's hard to tell what your competition's doing out there, so all you can do is just set a pace you're comfortable with and run it, and if it's good enough, it's good enough.
I know it's always fun when you're winning, but you look like you're definitely having fun in this car.
Well, I'm just glad I could do a good job for Crawford. I mean, they put me in a winning race car, and I don't do this every day, you know. I mean, this ain't my gig all the time, and for them to invite me here says a lot about their class and their guts. And I appreciate the opportunity, and we're making the most of it.
Well, with the job that you and Tony are doing, you may be doing more of it.
40 victories for the Earnhardt family at Daytona, 34 for the late Dale Earnhardt, and 6 for Dale Jr. It could go to 41 today. Stay with us. We're taking you all the way to the end, live here on Speed.
Welcome back live to Daytona. You are on board, and your chauffeur is 2002 NASCAR champion Tony Stewart at the wheel of the race-leading Citgo-sponsored Chevy Crawford. He shares with Andy Wallace and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale Jr. has gotten out and is done for this 42nd edition of the Rolex 24, and it appears that smoke will take it to the finish. How well have these guys adapted to the rigors of road racing in the dark, in the rain over 24 hours? Take a listen to this radio conversation between Stewart and Wallace once Stewart had gotten out and handed over to his teammate.
Andy, this is Tony. Hey, the only areas you really got to worry about, you got to roll in the throttle there off of 1. You got to be careful through the dog leg. It loses the nose just a little bit. And the forward bite off of 6. And right before you come on the banking, you got to roll in the throttle. Once you get on the bank, you can go ahead flat. And going into the bus stop, I'm braking about 250, front stress 200. The only other thing, just make sure you stay on line on the exit of the bus stop. On line on the exit of the bus stop, or you'll be really, really loose because it's pulled up fat on both sides. Okay, thank you.
And what he's talking about, what he means to roll on the throttle, he's telling you that the exit of that corner is slippery. You can't floor it. In other words, you got to just roll into the throttle real gently. Don't spin the tires up. Scott, is that about what you saw last night too?
Yeah, and that's pretty typical between drivers. When you get working together as a group, that's exactly what you want to be doing, and pretty much what all the teams are doing. The driver coming out will tell the guys, hey, this is what you need to be careful of, this is what you need to be heads up of. The banking, your flaps, the bus stop was always real treacherous. Getting in was real slick, coming out was puddled quite bad. Going into 1, you had to do your braking, and then you cross that. You'll see a paint strip going down in there, and then you can go across it, brake before it, go across, roll across it, and then do a little bit more braking again. There's a Comp USA car right there. Jimmy Morales, this is the first time he's got in there. I think he's doing a good job. He wanted to wait. I mean, he's a real heads-up guy, and they're going to be starting a second car starting next race at Homestead. We'll be doing 2 cars with the Comp USA good guys on there. And
how do you divide up the driving strength for those?
I don't know. That's up to the boss, Chip Ganassi. You know, it's been pretty awesome working with Chip and the whole group. I mean, these guys, their focus is winning. I mean, we've taken this car and got it turned around in a very short period of time, and like I said, we were very impressed with putting the thing on the pole, and we're just scratching the surface of what I believe is going to be some exciting development.
Speaking of being on your game, let's go back to Max Pappas in the car before Jimmy Morales got in. Pappas handed over to him, and we watched us in the tri-oval with competition alongside, driving with one hand and trying to clean the inside of that windscreen with the other.
Unfortunately, if you wouldn't have seen all this rain, this is the challenge we've been faced with since the wiper broke, and we've been picking up a lot of frost, or I mean a lot of fog on the inside of the windshield. You know, you're just stuck, and fortunately we stuck a little squeegee in there so we could at least get up there. The windshield wiper broke, and it's been a challenge. I called in, I said, man, I can't see. And they said, well, we can't see in here either. I said, yeah, but you're not running 185 miles an hour. Hey, Brian?
Now, that car should have been fast at night in the rain, Scott, and I don't know how much time you got to spend in it. You know, this Lexus power plant that's in that thing, it also was featured in a ski boat. They used the basic components of that in a ski boat that was produced for a while and made a great competition ski boat engine. So I would think that car would have been really good last night. I don't know what kind of prop you guys were running. Maybe a little more fit for some forward bite, but that's kind of where that engine came from. Did you know that?
Well, we were disappointed. We wanted to keep running and actually put the prop on it and get this thing running in this heavy rain conditions. I don't know why they decided to stop. We would have been in great shape.
Scott, if you put the prop on, don't forget the rudder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with these flat bottom cars, it's not like they're real good across the water.
Speaking of skiing, listening to Tony Stewart talking to teammate Andy Wallace, all I could think of was my days covering World Cup alpine ski racing, when one member of a team would get to the bottom, jump on the radio, and tell the guy at the top, just about to begin his run, what it was like on the way down, where you could push it, where you had to be careful.
Well, before the days of radio, that's what you had to do on the driver change. You had to quickly tell the driver where it was, and of course, when you're out there, you think, now, where did he say you got to be careful?
There it was.
We got a break ahead of us. Let's take a look at the standings. There's Dale Earnhardt Jr. considering his last 24 hours of work. His teammate has the car out front and holding over Andy Pilgrim's Pontiac Doran. Max Angelelli turning very, very quick laps, but 4 laps down in third. In the GT class, Mike Fitzgerald and that Orbit crew, the 44 car, has simply had a stranglehold on first place, but young Mike Rockefeller and his former European Porsche Racing teammate Patrick Long, two great young GT class drivers, are cutting some very hot laps as well. And in the Super Grand Sport category, Jean-Francois Dumoulin from Canada is leading American Randy Popes and Canadian Kenny Wilden.
I'm going to have to run. I'm going to run, but I'm going to go back to my real job. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for stopping in,
Scott.
Peter.
Good luck.
Good luck the rest of the way. That's Scott Pruitt. We'll be back to Daytona in a moment. Welcome back live to Daytona International Speedway. About an hour and a half to go in this amazingly dramatic 42nd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. I'm Bob Varsha, and you're looking at the race-leading car in the hands of Tony Stewart of NASCAR fame, who we are guessing will take it to the finish. Running in second place, Andy Pilgrim in a Duran chassis. And we have more on the story of that team with Chris Neville in the pit lane.
Terry, before we went back to green, you guys were really starting to put some pressure on the leader. You'd made up a couple laps. It looked like you were going to get on the lead lap. You had some cooling problems, which slowed you down. The team brought the car in, tried to take care of that. Now it sounds like you have more problems.
Yeah, we're just trying to survive right now. Unfortunately, we can't race them, it looks like. So they've got a real strong car. They've done a good job all night. And our guys have just been thrashing, trying to keep our car consistent. But we've got a couple of different issues going on. So it's been a good race so far, and it's not over yet.
What's going on with the motor?
Not sure. I think with the heavy downpour last night, right before I got out, there was like an electrical glitch, like something was getting wet. I don't know exactly what it was, but the Kodak-sponsored car is going really good, and we're excited to be in second. We just need to hang there and see if anything happens to the leaders. But they're running a nice pace and running a really good race.
Well, this rain has really taken some toll on some of these cars, and I think right now Andy Pilgrim's a good guy to have in there and try and nurse it to the end. Back to you, Lee.
Well, of course, you know, at this case, it's so difficult for a driver or a team really to just, you know, grip the thorny problem and say, yeah, we've really got to finish this race, because this is the first race of a series, and these guys want to try and win the championship again for Terry Borchella. So they just got to make sure they've got to grit the teeth and try and conserve the car and finish this race.
Well, this car right here, Max Angelelli in the number 10, is by far the fastest car on the racetrack trying to make up ground. He's lapping at 150 flat. To our leader, Tony Stewart, is now down to a 152.8, which is his quickest since he's taken over from Dale Jr.
Now, you saw the windscreen wiper blade on that car, on that shot going into that corner. It wasn't even touching the windshield. That, of course, is the wind coming up the front of that car. The nose of the rider is very steeply angled, and it lifts the wiper off, which is why you see they don't work when it's raining. There you see it, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches proud of the screen, and it's really tough to get them to stay on the screen. And it looks to me, looking out the window of the booth, that we might actually need those wipers again before this race is over.
There's your fourth overall car running in the GT. It's Mike Fitzgerald behind the wheel right now. So that group has done a fantastic job throughout the entire night. And look how clean the car still is.
It's amazing. They've had very little contact. This car started near the back of the grid because of that fandangle at the beginning of the weekend when they didn't get their names in early enough for qualifying, so they started way down towards the tail end of the field, and here they are leading the class and running in a cool fourth spot overall. 472 laps under the belt. They're only 10 laps off the overall lead, cranking out laps of 159, which is still quicker than Rockefeller, who's behind them in the 74 car, who's going just a fraction slower than them, so he's not going to be able to get his lap back. This is the 74 car. Second in class, fifth overall, and he is not going just quite quick enough to get that lap back.
No, he's about a half a second a lap slow right now. Not to say that it'll be that way all the time, but on the last couple laps it surely has been. And these cars at 159, when it was wet, they must have superior traction to the prototype because they were running almost equal times, which is pretty impressive, I think.
Now, Didier Tays in the 27 car is running in sixth spot, and he is only 2 laps behind that second GT car. And I know that Didier Tays, although he's lying fourth in the DP champion, in the DP table, would certainly like to get up the overall field as far as they can. And they've got a chance for the next hour and a half, as long as it stays dry, of actually cranking up a couple of laps on that GT car.
All these cars, they're in the Daytona prototype, are chasing the number 2, Wallace. All these guys are really turning in some fast laps, so they got the hammer down. They're trying to run him down. A 1:49.6 by Angelelli that lap. So really fast.
He is really... And he's only 2 laps out of second spot, and we've already heard that Andy Pilgrim is having a problem. He's doing 2:01s. So if Angelelli can keep that pace up, he could pull themselves up into second spot overall.
And that's Court Wagner we're looking at behind the wheel of the number 6. Like I say, everybody running pretty hard now, trying to, zigzag. You go left, I go right.
He was getting that. At the driver's briefing, Mark Rapoff says, don't try and help the guy. You just stick to your line, and whoever wants to overtake you will pass you where he can. And you get these guys that still try and second guess what you want to do when you're past them and try and help you.
And here's the story, the car of the year, I should say. The Buckler car that was almost burnt up in the transporter fire and is soldiered on, had the big spin, lost all the back body work on the second lap or so. And Patrick Long now doing a really good job.
The young American driver who's had aspirations to do Formula 1, but he's been picked up by Porsche. He's a Porsche factory driver, and he may decide that GT racing is good enough for him. This is Andrea Montermini in the Ferrari. Number 73, Red Bull car.
There's our 91. That's the lead. It has always been the lead of the S.
Jean-Francois Dumoulin driving the wheel at the wheel there, Canadian.
Super Grand Sport car. These guys doing a great job for that class.
The only way you can tell the difference between the Super Grand Sport and the GT cars, and they're identical models of Porsche really when they leave the factory, is that they've got a lot less fender flare over the rear wheels. They have they have the Hoosier tires instead of the Dunlop.
Right, and surprisingly that's the reason for the fender flare. It's not that the tires are wider, but they're taller, and they had some clearance problems, so they had to go to the bigger fender flare to accommodate the tire.
For the GT car. And that, funnily enough, makes the SGS cars just a hair quicker down the straight.
Yeah.
A little bit less frontal area.
That's great. American Randy Popst. We always are used to seeing him running at the front of any class.
And these two teams were vicious rivals, not in terms of, you know, a lot of angst between them, but out on the track they had some tremendous tussles last year in the Grand Sport 1 category in Grand Am Cup. They've both moved up to the SGS. They wanted to be in the main race, so to speak, rather than a support category like the Grand Am Cup. And they're all very excited about that, and running 1 and 2 in class is great as we rejoin our race leader, Tony Stewart. And when we come back, we're going to give you some stats about Tony's career, and I've got a question for you, Mr. Hobbs.
Uh-oh.
And it's not about Clag either.
Welcome back to Daytona. Don't forget that once the sports cars roll out, we will have stock car coverage for you as Speed Weeks at Daytona continues. More than 70 hours of live coverage beginning Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So join us for that. Coming up on 90 Minutes to Go here at the Rolex, there are the race leaders. Andy Wallace and Dale Earnhardt Jr. are sitting and watching as their teammate Tony Stewart takes them around, hopefully, to victory, which would be a first for Earnhardt and Stewart as NASCAR regulars in the Rolex 24. But it certainly would not be the first visit to victory lane in a different kind of race car for Tony Stewart. He, of course, is the USAC Triple Crown winner and an IRL IndyCar champion. And in NASCAR, he has been killer as well. A 2-time winner on the road courses, this at Watkins Glen, New York. And here at Daytona, he has been a winner as well, passing Dale Earnhardt Jr., perhaps the biggest winner Daytona has ever seen, to win the Bud Shootout in 2001. Of course, when it comes to the Daytona 500, Tony's luck hasn't been quite as good. 2001, he also went flying through the air in one of the most amazing accidents ever seen in the history of the great American race. Many of you remember holding your breath at this moment as Tony gave his sponsor Home Depot the worst kind of exposure. And here he is, perhaps the most versatile professional racing driver of them all. Boys up high, Lee Diffie, Dorsey Schrader, David Hobbs, what do you think?
Well, he's certainly one of the most versatile drivers of this particular era, and part of that, of course, is that drivers these days tend to specialize. I mean, Dale Earnhardt Jr., for instance, has done some road racing, a little bit. His father did a couple. Most of them don't ever do anything else but what they really decide to do. Single-seater drivers are the same. They don't do anything else. In the old days, everybody, look at Mario Andretti. He was incredibly versatile, winning the Indy 500, the World Championship, and the Daytona 500. So these days you just don't see it. But Tony Stewart, certainly with the racing on the dirt, in the midgets, the Winter Cup, or the next Dell Cup that's going to be this year.
You see more of that now. Tony Stewart's one of the new breed of NASCAR driver, if you will. You know, it's the same. You look at Jeff Gordon, he had the same kind of a background. One in the midgets, one in the sprint cars, wins in the stock cars, good on road courses. All these newer guys that are in the NASCAR are really, really good. Yeah, and speaking of, you know, what about when he got into Montoya's car? Switch with the Williams.
He was only second off in about 5 laps.
And you talk about a foreign element on both of those gentlemen's parts. I mean, you couldn't get more black and white different than those two.
There's one, Pablo Montoya couldn't believe how the stock car wouldn't stop, and Jeff Gordon just couldn't get used to it, couldn't believe how quickly the Formula One car would stop. So obviously took a lot of getting used to, but certainly Tony Stewart, I think if you put Tony Stewart in the Formula One car and you went off for a week somewhere with him at a Formula One circuit, he would crank out times equal to anybody but maybe the top couple of 3 drivers in Formula One, and put him in there for a year and he'd be right there with them. Absolutely sure of it.
Really hasn't had any stumbling blocks with a steering wheel that I've ever seen. You put a steering wheel in front of him and just clear the roads, boys, he's coming through.
Plus, a lot of these kids start off in go-karts. Even the NASCAR drivers these days tend to start in go-karts at the age of about, 7, 8.
When you look at what go-karts are now compared to when you started, I mean, these shifter carts are like little Formula One cars.
Yeah. And cool as a cucumber. And I'll tell you what, it's going to live with me a long time. That first flying lap in the race for Tony Stewart was dark, in the wet, and he drove past Max Packers.
Watch his hands on the steering wheel. Look how fluid he is. He just feeds the wheel real gently. Don't see any jerking around. You see, some people won't like to jerk away on the wheel and get to set the car in motion. Tony feeds it. See, just real nice. Let the front end bite. Get on the throttle gently here. That's a smooth driver right there.
Tremendous effort from this team. It's a brand new team in the Rolex Series. Not a brand new team to racing, though. Michael Shank Racing has been quite successful in the Toyota Atlantic Series, but Kurt Wagner, who he and his reigning GT champion co-driver Brett Martini, they will spin off to go and drive for G&W Motorsports in a brand new car later this year. But they've teamed to partner here with Michael Shank Racing. Kelly Collins filled in for Brett Martini because of his injured shoulder. And Mike Newton and Tommy Erdos have really done well. They're regular FIA NGT competitors, and they've done a nice job in this car to bring you up to date. It is 5th in Daytona Prototypes in its first appearance and 7th overall.
Well, like Chip Ganassi, Michael Shank, though he may not be as well known, is another pretty astute judge of talent. A 2-time Owner of the Year in the Toyota Atlantic Championship for single-seaters. And among his former drivers, Sam Hornish Jr., who of course went on to win back-to-back IRL IndyCar championships. And this effort means a lot to Michael Shank, who reportedly mortgaged his home to help fund this effort. Obviously a team owner who doesn't believe in the rules that you play with other people's money in this game. Good luck to him. We'll be back to Daytona live in a moment.
Speed Channel's coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is brought to you by Porsche. Porsche, there is no substitute. Welcome back to the Rolex 24 here at Daytona. Not so much luck for this Porsche driver, Carlos de Quesada. The 98 machine has come to a stop. No damage done. Car just rolled off the side of the circuit and getting some assistance right now. Inside an hour and a half left in this 42nd running of this fantastic race, and only 4 laps, less than that in fact, separating the top 3 cars. They're all Daytona prototypes. We've got 2 NASCAR regulars in the leading car, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Tony Stewart, with 3 times winner Andy Wallace. Terry Borchella, the reigning Rolex champion, is in second. And of course, Andy Pilgrim is on board that car right now. And Max Angelelli for the newly formed team, the SunTrust Racing team. Wayne Taylor, of course, pulled that all together in record time. Then we've got 2 GT cars in the top 5. A fantastic effort from Orbit Racing and Flying Lizard Racing to be there. They have run almost a perfect race, and now that Flying Lizard car is not far away from getting up on that same lap as Orbit Porsche, so they are really starting to apply the pressure in these late stages of this race. A win for the Flying Lizard team is not over yet, and this is the Spirit of Daytona team. Doug Goad, after running many, many years in the Grand Am Cup Series, has stepped up to the Rolex Series. He's, of course, won in the AGT class here at the Rolex 24 and in the championship. And he had Robbie Gordon on board that car, as well as Stephen Gregoire and Milka Duno have had a lot of luck, and Robbie Gordon was big and brave enough to put up his hand. He said, well, you know, at the beginning it was my fault. And I thought he was pretty unlucky when he spun and it went into the wall outside coming out of the bus stop, because many people spun in that position.
He got a wheel offline and stuck himself in the wall. But the interesting thing is this SunTrust number 10 with Max Angelelli at the wheel. It's the quickest car on the track, and he is lapping about 10 seconds a lap quicker than the Borchella Barber Andy Pilgrim car, which is 2 laps in front, and he has enough time with an hour and a half left to just about unlap himself and take that second position, which going into the championship could be crucial points for this team.
We think the Pilgrim car is hurt. It's not running the 2 minutes and 2 seconds, whereas Angelelli's running a 1:53.6, but the fastest car, the leader, Tony Stewart, 1:53 flat. He's flying.
Max Angelelli has been around sports cars for a long time. His team owner and good friend Wayne Taylor paid him a tribute before saying he's the best sports car driver in the world. And as you say, Dawes, Stewart is matching him for lap times by the lap in the low 150s. Great effort from Tony Stewart. We've been heaping plenty of praise on the NASCAR boys, but what about the open wheeler guys as well? Because Scott Dixon did an exceptional job for Ganassi Racing last night, and so too did Christian Fittipaldi, the former Champ Car and Formula One driver for Bell Motorsports. He jumped in when conditions were pretty ugly and certainly held his end of the deal up.
On board now with John Heinrichs, who's 102 laps down. They've had various problems, niggling problems all the time.
There's your leader.
Who in fact has just gone around Andy Pilgrim, putting him down another lap. So the Dale Earnhardt Jr., Tony Stewart, Andy Wallace car really rocketing along. As you just said, he's cranking out as quicker laps than anybody. But Max Angelelli could easily catch up with that second place car.
Racers Group Porsche with young Pat Long, the young Californian, enjoying his first Rolex 24 at Daytona. He's raced in the UK, he's raced in Europe, and now he gets to race at home as a Porsche factory driver with the reigning winners of the Rolex 24 and reigning GT class champions. They currently sit third in class, and all eyes are still on the track. There is less than an hour and a half to go until we see the checkered flag. Can Stewart add to his wins here at Daytona? We'll find out. Back live here on speed coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. You're looking at Mike Rockenfeller, the young German for the Flying Lizard Racing team. A 5-driver lineup in this outfit with many, many times champion, not of this event, but of many other classes in American road racing. Peter Cunningham, Lonnie Petchnik, Seth Nyman, Johannes van Overbeek. The lineup, a very, very good lineup. And especially for Lonnie Petchnik and Seth Nyman, who have not done a great deal of racing, they've really stepped up. Surrounded by these 3 very, very fast drivers, they've done a great job. Nice teamwork, and we see the Doran Lister in. This is the Lexus-powered Doran chassis car. And again, more attention at that front end, which has been an ongoing problem for a variety of teams in the Daytona prototype class.
See him working on the radiator lead, just trying to blow these radiator grills out. What is happening here? You get so much sand here at this racetrack with these wet conditions, it just turns into this mush that literally just clogs the core of the radiator, and they're not getting the cooling effect. So Kevin Durant is a master at this type of thing. He's won numerous races here at Daytona, so the crew just basically turns this into a routine maintenance work on the 27 car. So once they get this nose bolted back in, we should be in pretty good shape. Let's go down to the GT paddle with Chris.
Chris Neville?
Well, Mike Rockefeller just brought the 74 car in. This is going to be a real quick stop for these guys. Mike is going to stay in the car. He's going to finish out the day, so they're just going to do tires and fuel, then get him out of here. Now, the thing with this team is they think they're going to have to come back in for a splash and go at the end of the race. So it's going to be a real nail-biter down here. Down to you.
Well, problems for the leader. Smoke coming from the number 2, Crawford.
Wheels askew. Right front wheel, I think, has fallen off. It has, in fact, fallen off. There's no wheel nut on it. A good, possibly.
Cal?
You're right, the wheel nut has come off. Tony Stewart's got it back to the pit lane. The wheel is still on the cover, just hanging on. The wheel nut is missing, so they're doing the refueling. They'll try and get up in the air and see what damage has been done to this front end, so get back to us.
All bar one incident, well, a couple of minor spins and one incident that involved Andy Wallace with a wheel going off this car. Other than that, it's been a faultless run. Yeah.
Same wheel too. Now this, of course, Hearts must be really racing in that SunTrust number 10 camp now, because they are only 4 laps behind this car.
They're less than that now, David. They're back. They're up within 2 laps. 494 plays 492. This team versus the Bell Motorsports team.
Lee, the rotor was askew when he came in here, but as a floating rotor, and the mechanic literally kicked it back into position. He's going to try and hammer this wheel nut down. He'll probably loosen it off again, make sure the threads aren't damaged. Everything looks pretty good.
Moments ago.
There's the wheel. You can hear it clatter as the wheel came off. I had an almost exactly the same thing happen to me at the Nürburgring. The wheel came off, but luckily got stuck on the wheel arch, which is what his didn't roll away. Kept the car off the floor.
The mechanics were very smart. They put the new wheel on, then pulled it back off to check the drive pins. And that's when, like Calvin said, the floating rotor was not in place. And the mechanic kicked it back in place over the studs with his foot and put it back on.
And that's the only way you get that pin up.
Yeah.
Well, there you see the tire still has air in it. It just came adrift, and that was caught in the bodywork. Max Crawford looks at the damage here. Max, losing a wheel nut this late in the going, what could create something like that? We saw it yesterday on a lot of other cars.
I don't know, Forrest and I were talking about that during the break, and we can't figure it out. There's a lot of, when we put them together, we've upped the pressure in the guns, and it still happened again, but hey, we'll go on, we'll be okay.
You've been here before, Max, but it's never over till it's over, right?
Absolutely, I've been here too many times and never finished, so yeah, you're right.
All right, big smile on his face, and I'm unsure. I don't think they can quite squeak out. They put fuel in the car, but I believe Tony may need a splash to get to the checkered flag, Lee.
And after Tony has rejoined the circuit, the Bell Motorsports car is not too far behind. It is 2 laps behind, but on the track it is not too far behind. This man here, Tony Stewart, if Andy Pilgrim can push and push hard now, they may be able to get within 1 lap of this car after these problems struck the Howard Boss team.
There's no feeling like winning a 24-hour race.
It's the best feeling of the world. I mean, you know, even if the prize money are better value than the Rolex you put on your hand, the watch, it's like a trophy. And it's a trophy you keep forever.
It's such a mental release, and it's very emotional for the whole team. I mean, there's a lot of tears and silly stuff that comes out because everybody's so damn tired.
You know, I've been fortunate. I've won a lot of races, but winning the Rolex was certainly one of the highlights. Yeah, it's really, really good. I think it would be even better to win it again.
It's a hallowed ground here. But to be able to come and participate in this race, in itself is special. To do it as a team owner and proudly present your wares to the world is another whole part of it. But to win, it makes it even better.
Well, there you have it from the men who have done it. Winning the Rolex 24 at Daytona is the highlight of any driver's career. As we welcome you back, top of the hour here on the East Coast. 12 o'clock straight up. 1 hour remaining, plus 10 minutes, give or take, to account for the after-the-hour start of this race. I'm Bob Barsha, along with Lee Diffie, David Hobbs, and Dorsey Schrader. Calvin Fish, Brian Till, and Chris Neville are in the pit lane. There's a look at our race summary. Well, we've got a problem with the 10 car. This is the third-place car in the hands of Max Angelelli, who was taking huge bites out of the lead by the second-place car. Not sure exactly what's happening here, Calvin Fish.
Well, we'll try and get a word here with Wayne Taylor. He's on the radio now. They would do in at any time. You see Collard on the pit wall. He's ready to go. They were due in for a tire and fuel change. Wayne, what's the situation? Do you know?
I don't know.
Potentially out of fuel. I mean, you're close to your pit stop here.
I think he's out of gas the way he's swerving
He's
now.
in the window. I don't know. Maybe it is a fuel pickup.
Okay, well, obviously the car is stranded out on course. They're saying that he should have had enough gas to get back in. They told me about 5 minutes ago he's due in at any time. The team would get up ready to go. Let's go down to Brian Tail.
And not the only car having problems. The 66 car running third in GT has just had a problem a couple of laps ago. They think it's something in the differential. And if you remember Kevin Buckler exploding a tire early in this race, he thinks that may have actually been the differential problem rearing its head then. But it has cost them now. The car is in. They were going to try to run it in one gear for the rest of the time. It doesn't look like that's going to work. Chris Neville?
Well, I'm down with Mike Fitzgerald, who just got out of the 44 car. Hey, Mike. Mike, you guys are trying to catch the leaders right now, and how is that back window playing into the situation? I mean, I know you guys are leading, but the 74 car is definitely trying to chase you guys down. How's that back window playing in now that the speeds are back up?
It's tough. I mean, I just did a wet stint, a dry stint, and in the wet we were fine. You know, we were hanging on with them, doing the same lap times, had about a lap lead, and then when it went dry and we went to slicks, we were getting killed because that back window, all the air is going to the car and acting like a parachute, and we're just not getting around. I've pushed as hard as I could. It felt like I'm doing 54s, but the car won't do anything but 57. So I got to go do the math. I don't know if that's enough for them to catch us or not. It's going to be close, I think.
Well, the 44 thinks they are good to go to the end of the race on fuel, but the 74 thinks they have to come back in for a splash. Lee.
Johnny Molam is back in the 44 too, and he's been going fast. There is the stranded 10, the SunTrust Riley Pontiac-powered Daytona prototype. They have been, this car with Max Angelelli, the Italian driving it, has been the fastest car on the track for some time now, and this is crushing. A lot of the top executives from SunTrust have been here this weekend. This is their big foray back into motorsport sponsorship, and under the name of SunTrust, it's their first. And this is really devastating stuff.
It certainly was in with a chance. It would have definitely caught the second place car, which has got some sort of a problem.
You might have to put the fuel in. Okay, stop the radio, out of the car.
There is definitely a fuel issue.
What's daunting is the fact that we've had so little dry running with this car. Remember, they didn't get much testing in. All of this race has been under wet conditions. Now, Bill Riley is one of the best in the business. I'm not saying he's going to make a slip-up like this, but Angelelli has been running the longest, hardest stint that he's probably put on that car since the car has turned a wheel. And that will certainly eat the juice a little bit quicker.
At the moment, he is looking for fuel. I'm sure that last bit of radio transmission, there was a mention of fuel and something said something about under the car and fuel.
Can you hear me? Yes, we're coming. We're coming.
Oh, they're coming. With fuel.
There they are.
Which of the two? Lower or the higher? Lower. The lower. Copy that. I'm ready for you. Go to the radio.
They're saying something about which one is it, the lower or the higher? What are they talking about?
I think they're talking about the fuel reserve. They're talking about a fuel reserve switch, and he's asking which switch it is, which usually both of these gas tanks will have a little reserve tank, maybe a gallon of fuel that you, for this very occasion. But I'll tell you what, the 44 GT car is only 3 laps away from passing up this 10 prototype and getting on the podium.
Look at this, dramatic pictures from Daytona. This guy has just driven his heart out. He has done the majority of the workload, more than Emmanuel Collard, more than the team owner Wayne Taylor, and they're pinning their hopes on him to drive this thing home, and he was doing just that. He was within striking distance of second on Andy Pilgrim, and now he himself has to apply the fuel. He'll ditch that tank. Great pass.
Don't need that anymore.
And of course, you've got the system. If the system's got air in it, that could be a problem. It might take a little time to crank that out, so let's hope.
Here we go, he's got to fire it up. We'll be back to pit lane.
Is it fired up? Not yet. He's going to have to turn it over a lot to get it fired up properly.
Guys, the reason they would have stretched it and rolled the dice this far is because they wanted to do it with just that one stop. If they'd stopped any earlier, they would have probably needed an additional pit stop.
Oh my God, turn his belts on.
Well, he's not going on the racetrack though yet, anyway. Now I think he is. Hasn't put his belt on yet. Of course, he's going straight to the pit lane where I'm sure they're going to do a driver's change.
Yeah, and then they'll let him go out and they'll give him a penalty.
Well, you know what? A lot of drivers, I did it too, on your last lap coming into the pits will undo their belt so you get that out of the way before you make your pit stop. But
the driver's meeting yesterday, he said absolutely categorically that he doesn't want to see people taking belts, radios, etc., off going down pit lane.
Yeah, well,
I'll learn half a lap before.
Well, maybe we shouldn't be showing this.
Dramatic stuff involving the SunTrust team, and now finally Max Angelelli has reached pit in. And there's the rescue squad. Now Angelelli has to settle himself down, get it back to the 45-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit. Tense stuff down there, Cal.
Absolutely, and I mean, these boys are really pushing hard trying to get that second position overall, and then look for a hiccup by the leaders. So they were rolling it. They wanted to try and get the car in here with just one more stop. They'll certainly be able to do that now, but they didn't intend to lose the ground that they just did. So an amazing drive by Max Angelelli really goes to north. So it'll be his teammate Collard jumping in here. Team will go to work. The car seems to be running fine, and we just have to assume that they had a miscalculation there on the mileage. And I would put it down to, once again, the lack of flat-out dry running that they've had with the car in testing and this weekend and during the race. You really try and get a gauge from that. What they'll do typically is be very conservative in the first 2 or 3 stints, get a good accurate reading, and then they'll be able to stretch it. But this is really the first time that the car's run flat out, as Angelelli was just doing, running those low 50 laps.
Well, you think about that, qualifying was in, what was qualifying lap time? High, was it 145? High 145. And he's been running in the low 150s with all this wet, all this moisture, all this gunk on the track. And here we have the reigning Le Mans 24-hour GT champion, Emmanuel Collard, a guy who was fast and experienced to take this SunTrust effort home.
Well, Angelelli had been schooled at least where the roads were, the escape roads. You see what he did was he pulled down onto the infield, didn't go for the chicane, he didn't try to go through the bus stop. Instead, he found an access road where his guys could get to him quickly with that 5 gallons of fuel. That was smart. Not all the guys around here study that stuff.
Calvin, what do you have?
Well, I have Max down here. Max, just a tremendous performance out there on the racetrack. Was it just a miscalculation on the mileage? You're pushing so hard, you're probably using a bit more juice on that stint.
We have to look what's happened, actually. We have to look. The car is, already 24 hours. So maybe something didn't work.
I know it's a heartbreaking situation for you, but you're back in the race. You're going to score good points. There's a long championship season ahead of you, but that doesn't mean much right now. You wanted to get that second position away and hope for problems with the leaders.
Yes, exactly. This is what I wanted.
Well, he gave it 10 tenths, guys. You got to pat him on the back for that.
Well, what about that quote from Andy Pilgrim before? He said, it's so long, it's so draining, it's so emotional. And that, yeah, you saw the emotions with Max Angelelli, virtually on the verge of tears. He put everything into this.
And after that drive he had, you see how much he's struggling with that 5 gallons? Yeah. He's been in that car struggling really hard for quite a long time. And that 5 gallons weighs a lot. It feels like it weighs about 500 pounds when you're that tired.
And of course, we just heard Max Crawford say when their car came in, the lead car came in with the wheel off, Max Crawford said, it's never over till it's over. He said, I've been here before and I've never ever won this race. Unfortunately, 2 of the times he never won this race was when you know who was driving. But
I give him a 10 on the can toss. That was great.
A little backflip. He could whip over to Houston this afternoon and help out a little bit. Let's get this into perspective. They are still on the podium. This team is still there. They've got a 2-lap buffer back to the lead GT car with an hour left to run in this race. So while you saw the disappointment on Angelelli's face, all is not done yet. We move up 1 position to this car, the 54 car for Bell Motorsports. Andy Pilgrim is driving. They are second, but some 4 laps down.
Takes a lot of pressure off this car, of course, because they were panicking that the 10 car would get them. Now they're pretty sure that in the hour remaining.
Tell you what, it picked Andy up too. He was running 207s and 208s. Now he's down to a 201, which is a competitive enough time that he won't be losing as much as he had been before.
Tony Stewart running in the 158, same time as Emmanuel Collard, doing a great job, but so too is the Doran Lister in the 158, and so too is the Michael Shank car. So all the Daytona prototypes pretty similar times.
Look at the 2 GT cars.
The GT cars
156. 156 and 157. Those guys are the fastest cars on the track right now, trying to run each other down in the GT.
Chris, what do you have?
Well, I'm down here with Jim Bell. Jim, you guys were a bit concerned a little while ago because the 10 car was running you down so quick. They just had problems. Any reaction? Yeah, they ran out of fuel, it looks like, but they've gassed it up and they're on their way again. Gives us a little bit of breathing room. We're not capable of running our typical speeds because we've got some heating problems. So we're doing the best we can to keep to hold position, and we need all the help we can get, even from those guys. So we appreciate what we get. Have you been able to do anything about those heating problems, or is it just run what you have right now? No, basically we have kind of blown the radiator out a little bit, topped off the fuel and the water, or the water and the oil, and that's about all we can do at this point. The rest is up to Pilgrim. Calvin?
Well, Tony Stewart brings the number 2 machine in. I just spoke to Max Crawford. He said, no, we're just outside our fuel window, so they're taking this opportunity. Now they're well inside, they can go the rest of the way. To come in, do a routine stop. They don't want to cut tire down. I see a little bit of a delay here on the left rear, so I'm not, here we go. Now the nut is loose. The last thing you want is one of those wheel nuts to jam at this stage of the proceeding, so they'll top him up with fuel. I would assume they'll take a close look at this right front when they get that one loose. That's the one, of course, that came loose just a few moments ago. You see there, they got pretty lucky there. That spindle there is pretty heavily damaged. The threads on the spindle don't look the healthiest in the world, but right now the mechanic goes to work and he's going to tighten this thing up, button up, and hopefully Tony can get us to the checkered flag. So these boys look to be under control, but we still have an hour to run. A lot can happen here. It's been very dramatic in these last few moments.
Interesting to watch them just really take their time. Not rushing.
He didn't back that off and do it up again, though.
I actually noticed that he replaced one of the single mono hub wheel nuts. One of them he took off of the rear and then looked at it and then he grabbed one off his belt, which they always carry a spare one, and put the pressure on it. So he must not have liked the threads or the way they looked on that nut.
That was on the left front.
Yeah.
So Stewart is sent back out, still in the lead, with laps on their side as far as the lead. And we are hearing reports from the ground. It is starting to sprinkle.
Usually some ducks from the sky, but not the ground.
With 57.5 minutes to go, the rain's going to come back. Great. If you weren't with us earlier today, we had, what was it? We had 3 hours under red flag. The track was just simply too wet. There was another 3-hour period early this morning between 3 and 6 under caution. That's how much this race has been rain affected. Calvin.
Well, there was a reason for Tony Stewart pitting other than fuel. We thought he'd try and stretch it out and come in for a splash at the end, but they're looking at the right rear. Tony had reported it didn't feel right. The wheel was tight. Dorsey mentioned they look at that nut carefully. It wasn't loose, and the tire has pressure. So we're going to have to watch this carefully and see if Tony Stewart has another issue over in the right rear corner of that Crawford chassis.
Building back up to speed, and everyone in that Crawford camp, the Howard Boss team, David Bruley and Rick Howard, Max Crawford, everybody watching on so intently. Stay with us, less than an hour to go.
Welcome back live to what should be a dramatic conclusion to the 42nd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. On top of everything else, we understand there is rain on the way. We have about 45 minutes or so still remaining in what has been a fascinating Rolex 24. Now here's the best battle on the racetrack right now. It's in the GT category. The 4th and 5th place cars in the overall are 1st and 2nd in class. There is the number 44 Orbit Racing Porsche. They have a lead of about 49.5 seconds over the 2nd place number 74 car. We'll be watching this battle closely. Here's Brian Till.
The guys down in the orbit pit, they say they will have to stop and put fuel in that car, but they believe strongly that the 74 will also have to do that. They pitted pretty much together, but the 74 was in a couple laps before they were the last time, so they feel like he'll have to come in a couple of laps before they will. They will wait to make sure that the 74 is in before they come into fuel. The other unknown basically in this deal is how much drag does that lack of a rear window have in that Porsche? Is it creating enough drag and burning more fuel that they may have to come in a little bit early? They're not quite sure, guys.
Great point, Brian. There's no doubt about it. They will be burning more fuel and they're going slower down the straight. As Patrick Lana said, that when they got out, it's just like a gigantic parachute, which it will be. You're sucking air in there, pulling the car back, so they'll be using more fuel and going slower down the straight. It's going to be nip and tuck for those guys.
I'll tell you another reason they're using more fuel is because they're running faster than any single car out there, with the exception of Tony Stewart, which they're matching. They're running laps of 156. That is flying. So whether it's got a windscreen at the back or not, it's not slowing up that much.
Lap 497 plays lap 496 for these two at the top of the GT tree, and it's the Red Bull Ferrari running third in class. And the top SGS car, which is Jean-Francois Dumoulin, Robert Julien and co, they are inside the top 10 in 9th overall. But here's Johnny Mollem at the wheel of the Orbit Racing Porsche, and what a period of 6 or so months it's been for Orbit Racing. They finished on the podium at the Le Mans 24-hour. Different driver lineup, a different car. It was the 43 car there, but still Orbit Racing. And now here at the Rolex 24. And for Johnny Mollem, he's very good friends with some big-name drivers like David Brabham, Alan McNish, Johnny Herbert. And for all of this time, he's had to hang around those guys, see his good friend Alan McNish go off to Formula One, and Brabham win various things as well as Johnny Herbert. And Johnny was always, as we discussed last night when he was with us, he's always had to play second fiddle and be the runner-up guy. Finish second here, finish second there, finish second at Le Mans. And this could be the biggest win of his career. To take out the GT class at the Rolex 24. He's done it with a great team. It's been a true team effort. Roger Hawley and the boys.
Look at the 74. Just cracked off a lap of 155.87, the fastest lapping car out there. These guys, you don't think they have the hammer down?
That's still Rockenfeller as well. Mike Rockenfeller doing an awesome job. Behind there's 3 Daytona prototypes at the top, and then these 2 GT cars. 2 more Daytona prototypes with the Doran Lister, and then it's the Michael Shank Doran as well. A GT car, the Ferrari, the Red Bull Ferrari, then it's the SGS car. And rounding out the top 10, and this is a solid effort to work their way back up into the top 10, is the Pruitt, Pappas, Scott Dixon, Jimmy Morales car. As you heard Scott Pruitt mention earlier, that's Jimmy Morales' first run in the car. He was just not confidence was a little lacking out in those tricky and quite dangerous conditions last night, and as you can understand, that's a good decision. So Morales enjoying himself out there at the moment in dry air conditions.
I'll tell you what, Collard now in the number 10 Daytona prototype, hammered down 150.9, so he's now trying to make the pursuit to get that second place wrestled away. Long way to go, but I mean, he's flying.
Great to see the Picchio still running, incidentally. This is the BMW-powered Picchio, the Italian chassis on the right of your screen, number 80. Just on the outside of Jimmy Morales. And I was talking with Bryce Cobb from G&W Motorsports, and he said, I've told all of the drivers, including Jason Workman, just drive within themselves in this race. Just keep chipping away, because as of last season, we know that this BMW, this Tom Milner BMW M5 motor will just keep going and going and going. The one engine went for the entire season. It didn't let them down. So they knew that would give them down. And everything else is held up as well. They're a long way down the order, but the car is still out there. 26th position overall. Riding now with Andy Pilgrim. Let's take a listen.
Shows how off the pace Andy Pilgrim is.
Well, you heard him short shifting too. He's not running any revs at all. I'll tell you what, the 74 car, like I told you, just ran a 155, so he's really going to town there. Of course, Pilgrim's in conserve mode, trying to keep things from finishing.
24 machine, the Spectre Works sports car, the Team Highlander Corvette, still running. Very eventful start to their campaign with the car catching fire at the test down here. Then it blew up on Thursday. The team didn't give up. John Heinrichsey and the gang have done a nice job. Overall, this car, well down the order, in 35th position.
John Heinrichsey had a tremendous career in cars of this type, Corvettes, Camaros, just outstanding driver.
Of course, he designed it like a car.
Yeah,
that might help too.
Senior engineer at GM as well, and of course we're going to see him full-time in the Grand Am Cup this year. He's going to be driving with Devon Powell. Those guys almost got the win the other day, earlier this weekend. So John's still very, very much on the pace.
No question about his driving ability, but like I say, speed has been his life. It's what he gets paid to do by GM. And they certainly put out some really fantastic machinery.
Keeping the power on slowly, coming out of that tight turn 6. And there goes across the apex before he nails it.
His car 41, the Planet Earth Motorsports Orison marketing car. This is the Nonamaker family car, and also the two Menards, Paul and Charlie Menard, in with this. These guys, it's been a very, very busy and big off-season for this team. Joe Nonamaker, the father, his two sons, Will and Wayne, and the Menards joining them once again. 5-driver lineup, and they're now running 4th in SGS. They had a troublesome time as well, and they've slowly just kept chipping away through the early hours of this morning, and obviously now, since the rain stopped, they have made a great comeback. As far as overall, they're sitting in 16th position, but 4th in SGS. Nice work for them and a great way to start the season.
Pollard now in the 10 is supposed to get a faster lap, 1:49.7. 6 seconds a lap, almost 7 seconds faster.
Yeah, Manuel Collard really hanging out there, really putting the pedal to the metal, as Ken Squire used to say, but unfortunately that fatal gas stop cost them dearly. Still 2 laps behind the 54 car, and only just over half an hour. I don't think they can make it up even at 10 seconds a lap.
You drive a second a lap faster by giving it all you've got, and then a fuel stop thing like that costs you in the minute. So
it's terrible, and it's just so depressing for a driver when things like that go wrong.
And whilst the team continue to look, and Pat Long remains in the cockpit of the 66, unfortunately, it's looking more and more like the day is done for the reigning winners, the reigning champions of the Rolex 24, the Racers Group 66. Kevin Buckler does not give in. He never says no, never says stop, never says that's it. So they will continue to try and get this car back out there. As far as overall, they're still in 13th and about 5th in class.
They're mopping up a leak or something, throwing a bunch of towels down there. That's never a good sign either.
But what a week. I mean, what an absolutely disastrous week.
Well, I wonder with all the rain it drove through, you think it finally washed the smell away from the burning? Certainly got a bath.
And if you didn't catch any of our coverage yesterday or didn't hear any, that's the that looked like the Sitco Crawford running off there, the Spirit of Daytona car, back on track now.
He's thankfully cranking out some good times. Actually, we're not taking much notice of him because he's 100 odd laps down after poor old Robbie Gordon smoked the wall coming out of the chicane yesterday afternoon. But it's Doug Goad. He's cranking out some good times. He's down in the 158s, which is where
Howard just passed the leader. I think he got a lap back. I believe that.
Doug Goad's going to do the season with this car. Is that Angelelli in front of him?
There's Tony Stewart. I think Stewart just slowed and let Pollard by. That's good.
Problems for the race leading car, Tony Stewart.
He short shifted it. Got there. Oh, right rear looks.
That's that trouble corner too that Calvin was talking about.
Keep an eye on that.
There's definitely a problem down here, boys. The crew is setting up. They're going to bring him in. They're in radio communication. There's some kind of problem on that lead machine.
Well, the other Crawford, the other Howard Boss car retired many, many laps ago and is now scored in 25th position.
Something's banging.
on the banking there. You got an RC mechanical knot. Was that the differential, do you think, as you go around the banking?
Or something bottoming, possibly.
Tony said he had some kind of vibration. That's why they fitted him a short while ago and changed that right rear. They thought it was a puncture, possibly. They didn't see anything.
The car is definitely sitting down on the right rear corner, isn't it? Because the left front is just missing the ground every now and then.
It is. See the right rear jumping up and down?
Yeah. I'd say the right rear suspension is let go.
There, look.
Back. Dragging on the floor.
Definitely on the right rear.
He is at pit in right now. This is pressure cooker stuff now for the Crawford boys and Howard Boss Motorsport. They've got about a 3-lap lead over Andy Pilgrim.
How do you think the 10 car's going to feel when they come second? Talk about it, ain't over till it's over.
It's always the last hour, too, isn't it? Always.
What do you see down there, Cal?
Well, I see when he came in, the right rear lock, which meant it didn't have the wheel right on the ground, and they're just trying to get it off. So there's some kind of suspension breakage or something that's collapsed back here. I can't see right now. They haven't taken the bodywork off yet, which I'm a bit surprised at. They take a good look underneath there. They're going to need to if they're going to work on the car, I'd assume, and get this bodywork out of the way. So Max Crawford said, look at it and try and tell me what's going on. So they got the mechanics looking underneath there. I don't see anything wrong, so
one of the crushing things about endurance.
You're right. They're going to take the bodywork off and have a look at it properly.
Absolutely. I mean, you can see it's down on the right rear.
Yeah, there you go. Body off, he said.
Andy Pilgrim has just crossed through again, so the margin is now 2 laps. They've got that buffer to get this fixed and get back out and retain their lead.
They're trying to tighten up the spring and try and give it a bit more ride-eye over here. I don't know whether there's something maybe gone missing in the shock absorber itself, which is then taking the spring rate off this right rear corner. If that is the case, they may be able to do a quick fix
Oh,
here.
look at that, bro. They've got
oh, now we see something loose.
It's broken.
Yeah, something on the bell housing. The pivot point looks like it's loose there when they went to move it. So that had taken the preload out of that spring, and they're going to have to change that, but that could be integral with the whole bell housing there.
You're looking at the Bell Motorsports team watching on. They are the second place team, with Andy Pilgrim driving the car and representing the reigning Rolex Series champion, Terry Borchella. The margin is now less than 2 laps. That's less than 4 minutes. And look at the Howard Boss team. Max Crawford and his guys go to work to try and fix this up.
Well, Max has won this race before, but I tell you, when you go to pieces of wood here to try and get a race car back to the finish, I can't see this thing working for 30 minutes. A couple of laps maybe, but I'm not sure even Tony Stewart's skill can get this thing up to speed and try and win this one.
I think they're trying to wedge that piece of 2x4 in there so it limits the suspension travel in the droop factor so that wheel can't fall down. They're trying to jam it in there. It won't handle well that way, but it'll keep the bodywork up off of the asphalt. That's what they're trying to do.
There's Pilgrim completing another lap. It'll trip the timing and scoring monitor now. So it's now 5:10 laps, place 5:09. And Andy Pilgrim is closing in.
They're dimming up on that. You see what they're going to do now. They've run that shock up, like Calvin said, to try to get the right rear ride height back higher, but they don't have time to fix it. They're going to back out.
The bulkhead that it's attached to keeps bending it, but
it'll break.
They can run the spring up as much as they like, but it's not going to do it.
They sent Tony Stewart, and he is still in the lead of this Rolex 24 at Daytona race. Talk about pressure. After running for 23.5 hours.
Now there's a team that does need rain now.
Yes.
To try and take some load off the car.
This car has been the lead car for the majority of this race. Andy Wallace, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the man driving now, Tony Stewart, to come within less than 40 minutes of the checkered flag and have this. We are set for an exciting
dragging on the floor, the right side pod about 1.5 inches above the ground.
Well, his left front's going to be completely in the air, isn't it? I mean, the right rear's going to be banging on the chassis.
Yeah.
Left front's going to be off the ground. Look, not going to handle very well, Tony. Hold on to it, buddy.
You look at the gap between the bodywork there on the ground, and you've got the other side.
Let's hear from a very integral man in this operation, Max Crawford, with Cal.
Well, we'll try and put the microphone in here. Do you copy that?
He's
was talking to Tony. The crew are scrambling around here trying to think of ideas on how they can try and keep that corner up in the air a little bit more. They got tie downs, all sorts of things that the mechanics are kind of putting in front of Max's eyes, but this guy is a magician, but he's going to perform a miracle here. He's going to try and get this 2-Sitco machine up to speed. And now he looks at the monitor. He's trying to analyze what the gap is, how much time they have to play with, what sort of lap time they need to achieve to try and win this one, Bob.
It's funny how life works sometimes. In addition to all of his driving chores, Tony Stewart owns a team in the O'Reilly's World of Outlaws series, the barnstorming winged sprint car drivers. His driver is a guy named Danny Lasowski, a former series champion, and last year at the biggest event of the winged sprint car season, the Knoxville Nationals in Knoxville, Iowa, Tony Stewart's man Danny Lasowski won the race despite driving the closing laps with a broken shock at the rear of his car and a rear wheel flopping around in the breeze. The boss is going to have to try to do something similar to win the Rolex 24.
Here he comes, still in the lead to complete yet another lap. All right, let's hear from Max Crawford now.
Max, you've analyzed the situation. What do you think you can do?
Nothing in the time that we have left.
What has failed on the car exactly? Can you make that out?
The right rear rocker mount is cracked. The car's drooping on the right rear, but we'll just do the best we can.
What sort of time do you have to play with? I mean, is it possible for Tony to keep the car at speed?
It's going to be difficult for him, but I mean, he just did a 210, so we'll do the best we can.
All right, mate, he's still smiling.
Well, we saw lockup, obviously, on the right front, which is no longer touching the ground. It's something Tony's going to have to be aware of and really start watching that he doesn't more damage, go off the road and hit something or flat spot a tire to where he has to bring it in.
If he has to make a sudden move or a sudden braking moment, if anybody gets in front of him and he's got any sort of attitude on the car, or as we saw there, the left front just locking up, not getting any steering and not getting much braking.
Andy Pilgrim is 1 lap and about 1 minute behind Tony Stewart. The pressure is on.
Back at Daytona International Speedway, how often have we seen this happen? At the Rolex 24 at Daytona, in the closing minutes of the race, problems for the front runners. This is the number 10 car. We saw Max Angelelli run out of fuel, have to haul a fuel tank over to the car to get it into the pits. Emmanuel Collard took over, and a car that threatened for the win in this race is now third with what is reported to be a broken CV joint. Calvin, what can you tell us?
Well, that's exactly right. I just spoke to Wayne Taylor. He said, I believe it's the CV joint. Now, we see some fluid coming out here, which is brown. Now, I've never seen a team go to work like this. They pour 2 cans of Coca-Cola on that. Now, that's something I've never seen before, Dorsey and David. Maybe you can help me out here. Not just trying to cool it with water, Coca-Cola. So I'm unsure about that one. Right now, the car is stationary. I'm not sure if they're going to get him back out.
Well, you saw a lot of clag under there. All around that suspension is covered in road clag, and Coca-Cola has a special ingredient which is like a clag remover.
We hear it starting to sprinkle, believe it or not. Some of these guys are looking for rain. There's that Coca-Cola right there.
Yeah. Plenty happening in the top 5 because the top GT car is poised to take that 3rd place away from the SunTrust Daytona prototype. Tony Stewart is fighting off the increasing challenge from Andy Pilgrim. All the while, the rain has come back to Daytona International Speedway. It is raining on the back stretch of the track. And look at this, your race leader, Tony Stewart, the 2002 NASCAR champion, limping, trying to get this wounded car to the checkered flag in just 30 minutes time.
Got a good half hour of this to put up with, too, and it's going to rain again. What more can you do, or what more can you endure?
Well,
it's getting worse. You see the tire just touched down there.
Left front is
left front was in the air all the way until I just saw it touch.
Well, he had been doing good lap time. He had got it down as fast as a 2:02, but it's going to be hard to maintain decent lap times fighting this Sitco Crawford. And we have heard that the 10 car, the SunTrust Pontiac Riley, is done for the day. Let's hear from the team owner, Wayne Taylor.
Well, Wayne jumps over the wall. He's gone over to give a pat on the back to one of his co-drivers here, Emmanuel Collard. a valiant effort by these guys. And Wayne, let's get a quick word with you, mate. I mean, it's been a strong run by you boys. You really gave it a great effort. But what put you out ultimately?
It seems like a drive shaft, and it's shared the axle. There's 35 minutes to go. We could change the rear end, but there's no way we're going to get it to the end. We gave it everything we had, and these two guys, the team, I don't know what to say. It's just amazing. I mean, I know Jim France said this is going to come down to the last hour of the event. I'm sorry he ever said that.
Talk about the Coca-Cola. I've seen water go over the wall to try and cool something down. Was those 2 cans of Coke like some special ingredient? You're trying to get that CV back together?
Yeah, I don't know what that was, what that was about. Maybe it had some brandy in it. I don't know.
All right, mate. We'll see you at Homestead. Great run.
Thanks.
Oh, the rear. Look at the right rear.
Oh.
You know what he might have done, David? He might have, knowing it's locked in the front, he might have cranked the brake bias all the way to the rear to try to help that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what he's done. And, of course, the pressure is suddenly off these guys enormously because they're still lapping, well, not much slower than the Vorteller car.
You're riding with Tony Stewart, and listen to the car. Listen to that scraping.
Well, that's in the infield. Wait till you see it go up on the bank.
What do you think he's listening?
Well, let's have a listen as he approaches the banking. Let's ride with Stewart and listen.
He's up on the banking now.
The faster it goes, the more the rear wing will push that into the ground. And you'll start scraping.
Not too bad. It's all worn out. Nothing left to scrape.
Hey guys, it makes me wonder what Joe Gibbs is thinking. I'm sure he's getting ready to settle down and watch the Super Bowl later today, but he's got his star driver Tony Stewart out there running about 185 miles an hour, literally on 2 wheels at times, with the Daytona 500 about 2 weeks away.
Well, the thing that would be making me most nervous as far as Tony is that with that rocker mounting cracked, whether it finally came adrift and the wheel did a supermarket trolley move and swung out, you know, with attached to the bottom end but not on the top end.
We now officially have a GT car on the Rolex 24 podium. The Orbit Porsche with Johnny Mollem at the wheel is in the top 3 overall standings. And this car pitting, this is the second class car for GT, the Flying Lizard Porsche. Mike Rockefeller seems like he's been in there forever. He is so fast, this young German, and they've just kept him in there to take it to the flag. Chris.
That's right, Lee. He has been in the car for a while. These guys said that because we were under red flag conditions, that was considered a rest for him. So he's been in the car since probably about 5 o'clock this morning, or literally. But this was definitely the last stop. They got neutral in the car. They got enough fuel to go. So now he's just trying to run down the 44.
At the moment, Andy Pilgrim in second place, chasing our race leader, Tony Stewart. There's about a 15-second difference to the favor of Pilgrim in their lap time. So with some 26 minutes left, Andy could get back on the lead lap and should be able to catch this car. Talk about high drama. We've heard these cars described as bulletproof. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has thoroughly enjoyed driving this car. So too Andy Wallace, the man right in the middle of the development of this car, and appropriately he is with Calvin right now.
Andy, you've won this race several times, as of all of the classic races, but I know you've seen a few slip away, but have you ever come down to the finish at one with a car that's wounded as it is for Tony driving right now and try to get it to the finish?
Well, it's really a disappointment because everybody's done such a great job and we've almost got there, but now we've got pretty bad problems at the rear. But hey, there's only, what, 13 laps or so to go. You never know what can happen still.
He seems to be managing to actually run a decent lap time. Have you calculated if he continues at that pace? Do you have enough in hand?
I was just trying to calculate that, but my brain's a bit frazzled. I'll have another go in a minute, but he's doing a really great job because he's not got all the wheels on the ground all the time. But if anybody can do it, he can, so we'll just keep him in there.
All right, mate, good luck. Back to you, Lee.
Thanks, Cal. Nice to hear from Andy. And the GT class leading car in third overall pits and is set for the final time. Mollem Callum is on his way to a class victory if he can hold off the challenge from Flying Lizard, and will stand on the podium overall. And just highlighting the fact that in endurance sports car racing, it really isn't over until the checkered flag. For Kevin Doran and his men, Didier Tays, Freddie Leinhardt, Jan Lammers and Mark Goosens, they're in fourth at the moment and about to take over third in terms of the Daytona prototype class. They've had a dreadful weekend with the whole qualifying procedure. They failed to hand in their paperwork in time to nominate the qualifying driver. They qualified outside the top 30. They've had accidents, they've had damage, they've had radiator problems, and they have just kept on chipping away, and they stand a shot at being on the DP podium.
What you have to remember is that the GT cars, both that are racing one another, and for overall for that matter, are healthy. Both of the cars in front of them, the prototypes, are both wounded to some degree. Of course, the lead car wounded quite severely. Will it go a half hour? I don't know, but for Tony Stewart as a driver, he is total concentration right now, feeling every bit of that and doing everything he can to keep it in one piece.
For a guy that's used to racing as midgets on dirt, with that left front wheel off the deck, of course, he's used to driving cars with the left front wheel about 1.5 inches, 2 inches off the floor. And if anybody can nurse it, but obviously he's got to be careful on that flat spotting of that left front. If he lets it well and truly off the deck there, as he
look,
comes
it
up
doesn't
on the
even
bank,
touch on the bank till right up in here. Finally, right there.
Just slowly going around. I mean, it is only just touching.
It has been a memorable Rolex 24 for many, many reasons. A star-studded lineup with NASCAR drivers like Tony Stewart, Dale Earnhardt, Kyle Petty, Robbie Gordon, and Jimmy Johnson. IRL IndyCar star Scott Dixon, Christian Fittipaldi as well. And as we look at the overall standings on screen at the moment, the big battle is Pilgrim zeroing in on Stewart and Rockefeller on Molan. The battle between DP and GT.
It's 10 seconds difference between Andy Pilgrim being the faster over Tony Stewart. A solid 10 seconds a lap. That is not enough as long as Tony can keep the car running at the pace he's running right now and it doesn't break completely on him.
And it is beginning to rain harder and harder here at Daytona International Speedway. We have had, I think, what was the stat before? For only the 4th time in the history of this race, we had a red flag earlier today. We were in a red flag situation for some 3 hours. Earlier in the day, there was 3 hours of caution where the competitors were just cruising because the track was so wet. Like I said, it's been a memorable race for a variety of reasons, and it is far from over. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Tony Stewart, Andy Wallace, biting their nails at the moment.
Able to come with a brand new car. I mean, we haven't had the thing in a wind tunnel. We haven't done any development to come here and put it on the pole. And I think the job that Lexus has done has been tremendous.
I spoke with Mike Hull, team manager for Chip Ganassi Racing, and he said part of the problem was you got the car just for the Christmas holidays, went running all over Indianapolis looking for vendors and contractors to help you develop your car. Everybody was off on holiday, and you couldn't get anybody back until mid-January.
Yeah, and that goes true to the Ganassi guys. They had to pull some 24-hour events, and you know, it was some long hours. Let's go down to Brian.
Well, the name Earnhardt stepping out of a car that's leading at Daytona is not uncommon, but man, never in these conditions before. Awesome job. How was it out there, especially in the end on those hot rain tires?
Well, they were kind of slick, and I knew the guys were coming in and getting tires, and they were going to beat me. We didn't want to lose too much time, so we pitted about 10 laps early, get Tony in the car, get him on slick. Hopefully he gets out there, get some heat in him. That's the first stint I've ever ran and I ain't spun out, so I was pretty happy about that. But we were pulling away just a little bit from the 54, and then he had some problems or something. I don't know. It's hard to tell what your competition's doing out there, so all you can do is just set a pace you're comfortable with and run it, and if it's good enough, it's good enough.
I know it's always fun when you're winning, but you look like you're definitely having fun in this car.
Well, I'm just glad I could do a good job for Crawford. I mean, they put me in a winning race car, and I don't do this every day, you know. I mean, this ain't my gig all the time, and for them to invite me here says a lot about their class and their guts. And I appreciate the opportunity, and we're making the most of it.
Well, with the job that you and Tony are doing, you may be doing more of it.
40 victories for the Earnhardt family at Daytona, 34 for the late Dale Earnhardt, and 6 for Dale Jr. It could go to 41 today. Stay with us. We're taking you all the way to the end, live here on Speed.
Welcome back live to Daytona. You are on board, and your chauffeur is 2002 NASCAR champion Tony Stewart at the wheel of the race-leading Citgo-sponsored Chevy Crawford. He shares with Andy Wallace and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale Jr. has gotten out and is done for this 42nd edition of the Rolex 24, and it appears that smoke will take it to the finish. How well have these guys adapted to the rigors of road racing in the dark, in the rain over 24 hours? Take a listen to this radio conversation between Stewart and Wallace once Stewart had gotten out and handed over to his teammate.
Andy, this is Tony. Hey, the only areas you really got to worry about, you got to roll in the throttle there off of one. You got to be careful through the dog leg. It loses the nose just a little bit. And the forward bite off of 6. And right before you come on the banking, you got to roll in the throttle. Once you get on the bank, you can go ahead flat. And going into the bus stop, I'm braking about 250. Front stretch 200. The only other thing, just make sure you stay on.
Slip in towards the end.
Okay, what do you make of the conditions we're looking at right now, and this change to slick tires?
I'm surprised these guys haven't gone in, but it's the conservative move. They're about 5-6 laps up, so they have quite a bit of time there. But the chances of doing something with these tires, when it goes dry like that, these tires will chunk, will wear out pretty quick, and he'll start squirming around as we've seen on some of the video. So he needs to be getting that car in the pits and get some slicks on.
Have you ever seen conditions here at the Rolex as bad as what we've seen over the last 24 hours?
No. The worst I've seen was at Le Mans, actually the year I won there with Corvette, where it rained 23 hours, but it wasn't this hard. It was hard, but not this hard.
Coming in, you see the dark clouds on the horizon. We may not be done with rain yet here at Rolex. Let's go down to Brian Till.
The 2-car rolls to a stop. I never thought I'd be saying this. This is not the Daytona 500. It is the Rolex 24 of Daytona. Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets out of the leading car. Tony Stewart gets in the leading number 2 car. These guys have put on a clinic. You think of them as going around in circles, but they have showed the road racing community they are the real deal. They can run and run well. The rain tires come off. We don't see any blisters on them right now. They will definitely go to slicks. The slicks that are going on are stickers, so Tony Stewart will have to be very careful, but there is no doubt that you cannot run rain tires right now. The track is just way, way too dry. Mike Crawford, team owner, the team principal, as they came in, looked at his crew and said, everybody be calm, take your time, do the stop well, and do it without mistakes.
These guys are in control of the race right now, and that's exactly what they need to be doing. Just be calm, be real clean. Take a little extra time. Make sure nobody makes a mistake. Put those 4 tires on. And then same thing for Tony. When he goes out, it's going to take a lap or two to get those slicks up to temp. Not taking any chances. This is a pretty critical time when you have that dry line, but if you get off just a little bit, then it gets wet out there and you can slide right off the track.
Scott, you didn't get to see it last night because you were busy, but when Tony Stewart got in the rain, it was his first stint in the rain, got behind the wheel, took off, and immediately went storming off on his first lap. Who did he race down? He caught
Max Pappas.
Gosh. Yeah, he passed your car up and never made a mistake. He was brilliant in the rain last night.
Awesome. These guys are doing a terrific job. They put a lot of focus on their road racing skills, and as we've seen, we saw Dale Jr. here a couple years ago with Corvette, again last year, and now this year they're showing the way.
Scott, it's not where you'd like to be in 14th overall, but and 7th in class, but all in all, not a bad effort for the Ganassi's car, the Lexus Riley's first race outing anyway.
Yeah, considering we took delivery of this car right before Christmas, literally before Christmas. The first time the car turned the wheel was in testing. We went right from there to Phoenix for 3 days. The Ganassi guys have done just a terrific job. Riley's done a great job with the car. I mean,
he's 8 seconds a lap faster. The day is not done for that SunTrust Riley.
Now he's got the hammer down on that right now. Like you said, at 8 seconds a lap, that's a huge difference. But that is the fact that Dale Jr. is on rain tires. He needs to come in now and get rid of that.
Down here in the 27 pit, you can see the crew guy. This is what they're sweeping up. This is what came out of the radiator of the 27 car. You see it's a lot of rubber. There's a lot of grit in here too. You talk about these cars overheating. In the night, as wet as it was, this is what normally flies off of the racetrack when the cars go by. In the damp conditions, as slick as it is, it's sticking in the radiators, and that's what's causing the overheating.
The dreaded clag.
The clag there, Clagus Maximus is Latin juice to say it. It really is, as he said, because it doesn't go off the track when it's down. It sticks to it.
Your race-leading car, you ride with Dale Earnhardt Jr. He and Tony Stewart, can they do it?
Welcome back live to Speed Channel's exclusive live coverage of the 42nd Rolex 24 at Daytona. You're looking at the race-leading car, a Chevy Crawford in the hands of Dale Earnhardt Jr., and there is the man who is about to take over from him, his fellow NASCAR Nextel Cup star, in fact, the 2002 NASCAR champion, Tony Stewart, will get in. We anticipate for the final 2 hours of this race. He will also switch from wet to dry slicks, because Max Angelelli in the third place Pontiac-powered Riley chassis switched to slicks a few laps ago and is driving rings around the rest of the field.
11 seconds a lap at the moment. And even though they're a long way behind at 11 seconds a lap, he may come a lot of deficit.
You see Dale Jr. just squirming all over the racetrack. Just look at the back of the car. He's going to end up with blister tires probably when he comes in.
Wow, 13 seconds that lap.
Now down here at our host position, I'm joined by Trans Am champion Lee. Whoa, we've got a spinner on the racetrack. Everybody by all right? Always at the most dramatic moment, just as I was about to introduce my former Champ Car Speed Channel broadcast colleague Scott Pruitt, driving, of course, with Chip Ganassi's car. In fact, he put that car on pole for the race. So, Scott, you've lost none of your speed, obviously, in the prototypes.
No, it was good. Unfortunately, the race hasn't gone as good for us as we would have liked. We had some sort of heat exchanger problem that really cost us. And then the biggest challenge has been just being able to see out of the car. I mean, you're driving like this. It fogs up on the inside, had a lot of problem on the outside, broke the windshield wiper about 11:30 last night. So it's been a challenge all the way through.
Now you're done for the final 2 hours of this race, is that right?
No, I'll probably be jumping back in for the last hour. Jimmy Morales has just gotten the car. It's his first time in the car. He's new to the team. He didn't want to take any chances because this downpour has been pretty treacherous. So he thought, you know what, let's let the guys do it, and then I'll.
Back live at the Rolex 24 here at Daytona, and with this prolonged period of sunshine and the high wind, the track is drying very, very rapidly. In this car here, the Max Angelelli SunTrust Pontiac-powered Riley is the first to go on slicks, the first prototype, I should say, to go on slicks. The Racers Group Porsche, it's already gone to slick tires. So too is the Van Wyck and Jaeger Porsche as well. So it's all happening out there. There's a flurry for the pits. Sadly, the Crawford, the Howard Boss car with the Butch Leitzinger at the wheel, is back in pit lane. More problems. Reports smoke from the back of that car, and he has been dropped to 6th place. So there's a mad scramble for slicks down there, guys.
Well, it's about the right time. You see this one right here is starting to scallop. See those little bitty, in fact, the tire just moved. Right there, you're seeing that it's rolling the rubber off the outside edge of the tire. And that'll get continually worse, and that'll turn into little blisters. All the way around there, you get little blisters. Then it feels like you got a flat tire as you're driving. And those are probably our blisters, I do believe.
And the trouble is, of course, when you hit the banking and the thing finally comes apart, it's not a great feeling.
Just before we went to break, Dorst, you noticed something on board with Jörg Bergmeister. Talk about that.
Jörg was actually, while we're riding on board with him, and it was right before he came in and got onto the slicks. Watch as he goes down here through this kink. He's testing the adhesion. Watch his hand on the steering wheel. He turns 3 times. 1, 2, see, right there. That's the subtlety. He's feeling that grip before he gets to the apex. He wants to know when he gets there the car is still going to turn. If it's not going to turn, he's going to have to adjust his speed before he gets to that point. But that's what he was doing right there. He was feeling the front end of the car.
Wow.
That's pretty savage.
It accelerated a lot quicker than he did.
Chris, what do you have for us?
Well, I just checked in with the 54. It looks like Andy Pilgrim is slowing a bit out there. This team is starting to have some problems with cooling the car. So the car's getting a bit hot. They're telling Andy to try and short shift it, keep the revs down a little bit, and see if that temperature goes down. Just say with everything in the radiator right now that there's just not enough air flowing through there. So they're hopefully going to try and keep Andy out, but looks like they are getting ready to possibly put a radiator into. So we'll just hold here and watch these guys. Brian?
You know, it's interesting. That problem actually started last night when Terry Borcheller went off the track. They packed a lot of grass in the radiator, and I talked to Jim Bell. He said, we're having some overheating problems even after we got it cleaned out, as cool and as wet as it was. So now that everything's clearing out, it looks like the problems are rearing their ugly heads, Lee.
Well, one car that's on a move is the 27 car, the Didier Tays, Freddie Leinhard, Mark Goosen's car, and Jan Lammers, the former winner in that. It's just pitting as we speak, but this car has been putting in great. Mark Goosen's has been flying in this car, and they were just about to move ahead of the Howard Voss Leitzinger Jimmy Johnson number 4 entry, but a pit stop called, and they'll be changing to slicks, no doubt, as well.
And changing drivers too.
Yeah, that's Didier Tays about to step in.
Well, I'll tell you, the slicks are the slicks are the right thing, because right there, Kelly Collins just turned at 157, which is 3 seconds faster than anybody's been able to run on the slick. I mean, on the treaded. So he's flying.
Jan Lammers is getting in the 27. They too are going to slicks, but interestingly enough, guys, they're not going to stickers. We saw the 10 car came in. He went on stickers. These tires are scrubbed, and that may actually be an advantage out there in this wet. They won't have to get the mold compound, the release compound off of it. They've got tires that are already scrubbed in a little bit. They'll still have to get up to temperature, but going with scrubs, that might be the right thing to do right now if you want to run slicks.
Good effort from these guys, and hopefully they will get the reward they deserve after enduring a very, very tough period so far, with just a little over 2 hours to go. An update from the pits. We hear that the Butch Leitzinger, Elliott Forbes Robinson, Jimmy Johnson car will be retiring from the race. Ongoing problems. There it is there. Sad sight for everyone involved. Rick Howard and David Bruley, who is the car owner and also one of the drivers. And also, too, for Max Crawford.
There's no doubt these Crawfords have really shown their mettle.
Oh, yeah.
These are cars not to be trifled, but they're going to be quick.
Here's the Flying Lizard car, 5th overall, 2nd in class. We hear that the Orbit Racing car is in as well. This is the GT class leading car. Boy, oh boy, have these two teams put on a show in GT. Incidentally, the Racers Group Porsche still maintaining 3rd ahead of the Red Bull Ferrari 360, which is 4th in GT. And the Burgess Collin Porsche is 5th in class.
Now we see the lap times really starting to plummet. Now they're down into the 56s already. So
I don't think the Ferrari has changed yet, because on that last lap, the 66 car, the Porsche did a 157, the Ferrari did a 210.
And second place car is in. Andy Pilgrim brings the Bell Motorsports Pontiac Doran in, and this is really playing into the hands of the race leaders, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Tony Stewart and Andy Wallace. That increases their lead even more.
However, I do think you'll see Dale Jr. come in very shortly for a slick as well, because he's really slow right now.
Chris.
Andy Wallace just brought the 54 into pit lane. They are also putting slicks on this car. They are going to sticker up here. I'm sorry, Andy Pilgrim. And it looks like they are going to try and spray out the radiator. They aren't going to try and put a new radiator in the car. So I think they saw how long that took with the number 4 car. So I don't think they want to lose that much time out on the racetrack. They're just going to try and clean this out. They're spraying some air in there right now, trying to get anything they can out of there, and hopefully the car will cool when they get back out on track.
Just to give you an indication of the difference in lap times between these wet weather tyres and the slicks, Dale Earnhardt Jr. just posted a 2:03. Angelelli in the Pontiac Riley has already put the slick tyres on.